Hello viewers, my name is Adam.
You know what I mean?
And this is Sticky Media Productions, bringing you a series or movie review, I'm not sure.
To be honest with you, you're not, I wouldn't put it past you. Provided that this particular outing is supposed to be a tie-in to multiple fronts going forward for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Of course, we're talking about WandaVision.
Now, WandaVision officially starts Phase 4 in this cinematic franchise that started way back with Iron Man back in 2008. And after Avengers Endgame, or actually Spider-Man Far From Home, there's a huge shift and pivot in how the direction of this whole series is going to go. And one of the first outings, which is WandaVision, is experimenting, or the official experimentation of the television aspect of storytelling and the theatrical aspect of storytelling finally blended the two.
Now, when we talk about the television aspect, well, this show literally takes it in that front, as this is an homage to multiple variations of sitcoms and
sitcoms over the decades.
Yeah, sitcoms over the decades.
There is a story purpose for it to be this way, but I would say right off the bat, because of how the pacing of this series was going, it's the approach of the mixture of sitcom and Marvel Cinematic storytelling. It was wildly uneven.
We're just gonna go out and say it. This series needed more content. It needed to be longer. I mean, we're talking about 30-minute episodes.
Well, roughly. Well, it's weird because the series is divided into 9 episodes, but each episode is varied in length.
They all should have been hour-long episodes. I'm just going to put it out. There's just too much stuff that I felt that this series left on the cutting room floor, or just not enough story aspects that were dragged out or emphasized enough that desperately needed it to be.
And with WandaVision, the title, it focuses on Elizabeth Olsen's
Wanda Maximoff.
Yeah, Wanda Maximoff and Paul Bettany's Vision. And
two Avengers that, if you watched Endgame, know that they were going down a particularly dark and unfortunate part in their history and the timeline.
Yes, and ever since Wanda's debut, she has been a very focal point of the reason why superpowered individuals are so dangerous in the first place. And
very much so.
Throughout the movies, we're saying we slowly and surely get little hints of her how powerful she could be. But in this series, they go and very more basically just expand upon her character even more so.
And, and to that extent, I'm with it. I really did enjoy what they decided to bring to the table when it comes to the character of Wanda Maximoff and her ascension to becoming the character that we all know and love as the Scarlet Witch. I mean, that is an interesting, concept in and of itself. But with that said, there is still a lot of other things that this series tried to do that I feel as though it either just didn't, hit that mark when it needed to, or I feel as though they just needed a little bit more time to get there.
Yes, and even though, despite the sitcom aspect of the show, which is not that much of a far different from the actual comics, given the fact that they basically pulled the sitcom aspect from being an homage to Vision's solo run in the comics, which is very vintage itself. But they were still, for lack of better trying, was still being able to be faithfully to a storyline that occurred in the comics as well, with Wanda and Vision being a happily married couple and basically trying to live the suburban lifestyle. So let's go on to the characters, and going yet again for Elizabeth Olsen. She's proven time and time again that she is a very capable actress. This whole series is basically a driving point of her talents as not only a dramatic auteur and a comedic presence.
Oh, she is so hilarious. The part she could be so funny, but at the end of the day, you could feel her emotions. She does an amazing job just seeking you in and making you experience her perspective on life and how she's dealing with things.
Yes, it is clearly her show. She's really was driving home the main theme of the story, which is grief, especially due to the events of previous Marvel Cinematic outings. But we all, with the other parent of the show, Paul Bettany's Vision, when those two are together,
you feel the love.
The chemistry is sparking.
It's right on there. I've always enjoyed Paul Bettany in this role. I feel as though he brings a form of sophistication to this that I feel as though that character desperately needs. And I feel as though that a lot of the story plot lines that they did in the show when it comes to his character alone, I feel as though they did pretty well.
But with this being the Phase 4, it has to introduce new concepts.
And of course, that this particular part of the Phase 4 is supposed to be set up for at least 2 cinematic, outings going forward. One of which is supposed to be the next Doctor Strange movie, and another one is the Spider-Man next outing as well.
But also, it's planting seeds for a much more further storyline down the line, which is Secret Invasion, hopefully enough, which is going to be supposed to be in this Disney Plus show as well.
And you can see that also reflected in another highlight in this series, the character of Monica Rambeau.
She is played by Tiana Paris, who is playing the adult version of the child character that was debuted in Captain Marvel.
And it shows, like, whoever did their job with this particular character really hit the mark. You really felt that this was the character growing up, and I just loved everything they did with her. They really just blew it right out of the park with her.
Very solid origin story for a character, and with her, it brings a new faction to the MCU, which is SWORD, which is pulled straight out the comic books.
And I was really looking forward to seeing this particular aspect, considering this is supposed to be taking care of the more intergalactic aspects that it was already introduced in the cinematic universe to begin with, but this is supposed to go even further into those concepts. And also, but this variation in the show is slightly different from the variation you're supposed to be seeing that was in the comics.
At least not yet, because for the most part, even though SWORD is like some variation of this version of the live action, so far we saw a very grounded version of it. But we're pretty sure, based on the when Nick Fury was introduced back, was seen in Far From Home, that end credit sequence, pretty sure we will be seeing that other aspect to SWORD. One new addition to the MCU is playing a character named Agnes, who is portrayed by Catherine Hahn.
Now, I was intrigued by the way that this character was portrayed in this series. On one hand, I love Catherine Hahn. She's amazing. She's hilarious, and she really does rock her. What she's given in this series, she rocks it out. But I'm also hesitant to and a little bit thrown back because the character she's supposed to be playing is a character that is of a different age grouping from herself.
Yes.
And I feel as though that kind of took away from the potential storylines and aspects to that particular age group could have brought to this role.
Now, for the most part, she is that character in the comics. It's just that ageism in Hollywood is still pretty rampant. And for the MCU, this is not even the second time that they are a victim of basically they're giving a much more younger, older
shortchanging. It's shortchanging older actors for younger ones.
Yes, and
i.e. Hank Pym for
Hank Pym, Aunt May, and other roles.
Yeah,
it's noticeable.
It's really in there, and I need them to really think about what they're doing when they're doing this in the series and for the rest of the projects going forward.
And with other characters who we're not really sure they should be able to surprise, but they do introduce other characters like ones that will be shown further down the line. but that's for like a spoiler discussion.
Yeah.
Let's just say that
there's a lot of twists and turns in WandaVision. Some hit, some were complete misses.
Yes.
And I feel as though that's probably the biggest takeaway here. Is like they did take a gamble with doing this particular show. And for the most part, I commend them on it. But then I also had to point out glaringly that when you guys miss your mark, you guys really missed it. And I probably one of the worst thing is that this show has done was probably doing a lot of baiting and switching on particular situations they introduced.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, yes, to a certain extent, you can definitely blame the audience can think about aspirations or expectations. You gotta monitor that going forward. But then when you blatantly put in information that's that you like leading people into, you're either going to reward them for following it with you,
mm-hmm.
or you just don't put it in at all. That way you're not angering anybody.
Yes, and it's mainly due to the fact they're also trying to elaborate even more so on the magic aspect to the
Yeah.
MCU.
Let's take a moment just to address the whole concept. Now, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has literally from start one has been more geared towards the scientific aspects of Marvel and its characters. But as any fan of the comic books or the original source material would understands that there's a collaboration of different genres is mixed into that. It's not just science fiction. There's fantasy and mysticism and a whole bunch of other things that's drawn into that. And for the most part, the cinematic universe has done a complete shift into saying that it was just going to deal with the science angles. To an extent, that's fine, but then at the same time, kind of shortchange other characters like Thor, in my opinion, who I feel as though just became less interesting just because they did that. It's no longer the godly like entity he was. He's just another alien out there in the cosmos. Now with WandaVision, they're introduced even further more with her character and the other characters in the story, and I feel as though it's kind of just shoehorned in there, or it's not given the amount of time it needs to breathe to allow the audience to join that ride with them.
Especially with the depiction of magic on this series. Same thing like from previous DCU. Basically, this show is highly CGI oriented.
To a glaring extent, I feel as though they did not do enough work here to qualify for it. Almost like some things were great, others was just like is in your face.
Uneven, especially especially with the final episode that like. Is it like either A, they ran out of budget or time to actually render out certain sequences that really should have been left in or waited until you was able to eventually possibly just binge the whole series. In some ways, I can understand the production side of things, especially with the story aspect of the sitcom angle, where sitcoms are traditionally less than 24 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
And from the aesthetics of those sitcoms, I feel as though that they like from the costume designs, from the different changes, the different aspect ratios, and certain sound, able to compress the sound to try and imitate how people would have shown those shows if they were watching it through that decade. That was done good, but I feel as though it was still kind of a hit and miss when it came to certain cinematographic aspects, given the fact that they're still using modern cameras to try and film something that should be paying homage to something that's vintage.
I don't understand why somebody could have just looked at that and said, you know what, that looks a little way too crisp for my particular taste.
Needs some noise. But when it came to the cinematic, the actual MCU present day aspects, they from I don't know why, but they decided to actually punch up the colors. And this time around, because usually MCU movies are pretty dull. But it's pretty it's kind of appreciate that I had to give them credit to actually
they did.
The colors, especially when it spent down the line when you actually start showing different characters, especially the way we always wanted to see them.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, we brought up costume designs, and there's aspects to that I feel as though in that respect they still have a lot more, a long ways to go, because I feel as though at the same time with a lot of their particular projects, everything almost looks too cookie cutter or assembly line made. It's like, are they all shopping from the same place? I don't get it. Everybody shouldn't be looking like they're just coming right off the shelf.
But we all know for one thing, the real villain in this entire series has to be the end credit sequence.
I hated that so much, and we're not alone. We needed more. But, you know, at the end of the day, I just find myself feeling as though I wanted to, you know, praise this higher than I feel as though it really it deserves now. But I reserve myself, and I just gotta admit this was just an okay outing for me, especially with all the problems that this particular series has. I'm still, you know, looking for more. I'm not full yet.
But yeah, that's what we have to say for WandaVision.
Guys, if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you would like to see more content, please hit that little bell down there for the notifications that we can get more to you. We also want to hear your comments. How did you feel about WandaVision? Were you wrong for the full ride, or did you just, you know, manage to catch snippets here and there? What did you feel about it? Let us know.
Yes, my name is Adam.
And I'm Aaron.
And this has been Sticky Media Productions.
See you later.
Time.